Todd and Julie Chrisley's oral arguments make misconduct claims. Attorneys for Todd and Julie Chrisley concluded their oral arguments on Friday, April 19. Several members of the Chrisley family were in attendance as the attorneys presented more details of the case. Keep reading to learn more about the claims of misconduct and whether or not Todd and Julie Chrisley have a chance to be released early. The Chrisley's attorney presents oral arguments. The Chrisleys and their attorneys started the appeals process immediately after the couple was sentenced in November 2022 for fraud and tax evasion. Now, nearly a year and a half later, they have concluded presenting their oral arguments. Neither Todd nor Julie Chrisley were present in the courtroom for the hearing. However, several members of their family were in the crowd. Savannah Chrisley, Chase Chrisley, Grayson Chrisley, and Nanny Faye Chrisley were all in the Atlanta courtroom on Friday. Savannah's boyfriend, Robert Shriver, was also in attendance. Alex Little made an argument that there was misconduct at play in the case. He said that the evidence suggested that the prosecutors here worked in concert with the witness. First, the issue that was discussed that came out in the redirect, and then the recross of Officer Betty Carter, was whether the Chrisleys had paid taxes in the post-conspiracy period he presented to the court. Then Little proceeded to say that the district court confirmed that there would be a potential prejudicial effect on the defendants, leading the jury to believe that they had not paid their taxes, that they weren't interested in paying taxes, that they were untruth type of person who could commit fraud charged in the other acts. He argued that the effect of that prejudice spilled over to all of the charges in the case. When it comes to the taxes that the Chrisley knows best couple owed, Alex Little argued that they paid everything before trial. Additionally, the government is not claiming that the taxes haven't been paid. The IRS didn't know what they were doing. The left hand didn't know what the right hand was doing, Little said in the courtroom on Friday. He went on to say that in the IRS system, you can see both taxpayers, and you can see that there's a large sum sitting for Todd Chrisley that has not been applied to the joint return with Julie Chrisley. Alex Little continued, saying that Officer Betty Carter neglected to look further into the system. Todd and Julie Chrisley's future is still uncertain. Annalise Peters, a rep of the U.S. Attorney's offices, had a different story to tell. She argued that there is no case for appeal at all. The evidence was overwhelming at trial that the Chrisleys had taken a number of steps to evade the IRS, and they conspired to evade the IRS, she concluded. Todd and Julie Chrisley initially reported to prison to serve their sentences in January 2023. While their sentences have already been reduced, the family is hoping they will be released altogether soon. Once again, super grateful for that there are other avenues due to how our trial played out that we could take to get a new trial, or to, just hopefully get them out early, she said on the April 16 episode of her Unlocked podcast. So when it comes to the appeal, that's kind of where we're at. In a stunning turn of events, Todd and Julie Chrisley, the embattled reality TV stars known for their once flamboyant lifestyle, have taken center stage once again, this time in the courtroom. Their high-profile legal battle has entered a crucial phase as oral arguments unfold, with the Chrisley's defense team making serious misconduct claims that could turn the tide in their favor. The stakes are monumental. After being convicted on federal charges of bank fraud and tax evasion, the Chrisleys now face the prospect of lengthy prison sentences. However, their legal team is determined to flip the script, alleging prosecutorial misconduct and other irregularities that may have tainted the trial. As the arguments commenced, tension filled the air in the packed courtroom. Todd and Julie, once at the height of reality television fame with Chrisley Knows Best, sat stoically at the defense table. Their calm demeanor, however, did little to mask the gravity of the moment. Dressed in somber tones, They looked nothing like the high-rolling, outspoken figures who charmed audiences with their southern wit and lavish lifestyle. Today, the stakes were far higher than network ratings. This was a fight for their freedom. Their lead attorney, a seasoned litigator known for handling high-profile cases, began with a forceful opening statement. "Ladies and gentlemen of the court, we stand before you today because a grave miscarriage of justice has occurred," he proclaimed, his voice echoing through the chamber. "This case is riddled with prosecutorial misconduct, and it's our contention that the Chrisleys did not receive a fair trial. The integrity of this entire process has been compromised." The allegations were explosive, particularly concerning the behavior of the prosecution during the trial. The defense pointed to several key instances that they argued showed bias and a willful disregard for due process. They alleged that some key evidence was either mishandled or improperly introduced, and that certain witnesses may have been coerced into giving testimony that unfairly painted the Chrisleys as criminal masterminds. At the heart of the misconduct claims was the assertion that the prosecution had failed to properly disclose exculpatory evidence, information that could have exonerated the Chrisleys, or at the very least, cast doubt on the charges against them. This type of violation, known as a Brady violation, is a serious offense that can result in a conviction being overturned. The defense argued that had this evidence been made available to them, the outcome of the trial might have been very different. The Chrisleys' legal team also raised concerns about witness tampering, suggesting that several individuals who testified against Todd and Julie were pressured or manipulated into cooperating with the prosecution. One of the most significant claims centered around a former business associate of Todd Chrisley, who had played a key role in the government's case. The defense painted a picture of a man who had his own legal troubles and may have been motivated to shift blame onto the Chrisleys to secure a better deal for himself. In their view, this witness's testimony was crucial to the prosecution's narrative, but deeply flawed and unreliable. The courtroom buzzed with whispers as the defense laid out its case. Journalists scribbled furiously, capturing every bombshell revelation. It was clear that this was no ordinary appeal. The Chrisleys' claims of misconduct, if proven, could have far-reaching implications, not only for their case, but for the public's perception of the justice system at large. Todd Chrisley's larger-than-life persona was hard to reconcile with the subdued figure in court. Once known for his biting humor and perfectionist tendencies on television, here he was just another defendant fighting for his life. At several points during the proceedings, he exchanged glances with Julie, his wife of over 2 decades. Their bond, a central theme of their reality show, seemed unshaken by the turmoil, but the strain was evident. Julie, who had often been portrayed as the calm and nurturing force in their family, sat with her hands clasped tightly together. While Todd had been the more vocal of the two throughout their legal battles, Julie's quiet strength spoke volumes. Her attorneys argued passionately on her behalf, asserting that she had been unfairly swept up in a case that centered largely on Todd's business dealings. Mrs. Chrisley's involvement in this alleged conspiracy is minimal at best, one attorney argued. She is not the mastermind the prosecution has made her out to be, and the evidence simply doesn't support the charges against her. As the day wore on, the prosecution took the floor to defend their actions and refute the misconduct claims. Their lead prosecutor, a tough-as-nails attorney with a reputation for being relentless, fired back at the defense's allegations. The Chrisleys were given a fair trial, she stated firmly. There is no basis for these accusations of misconduct. The evidence against them is overwhelming, and the jury came to the correct conclusion based on the facts presented. The prosecutor then went on to address each of the defense's claims point by point. She dismissed the notion of a Brady violation, arguing that all relevant evidence had been disclosed in accordance with the law. As for the allegations of witness tampering, she called them baseless, insisting that the witnesses had testified of their own volition and without coercion. The defense is grasping at straws, she declared. This is nothing more than an attempt to shift blame and avoid accountability. Still, as the day's proceedings came to a close, the sense of uncertainty lingered. The oral arguments had presented two very different narratives, one in which the Chrisleys were the victims of a flawed legal process, and another in which they were criminals who had finally been caught. The judge, who had remained stoic throughout the arguments, would have the final say on whether the Chrisleys' convictions would stand or be overturned.